Poor single dad rescued a dying girl, unaware she is a billionaire's daughter. The scream of tires cutting through the noon air shattered what little calm the street still had, and before anyone could understand what was happening, a small body lay motionless on the sunlit asphalt, her skull bag split open, pages fluttering like frightened birds. People froze. Cars slowed. Some stared. Some turned away. And in that cruel pause where seconds decide life or death, a poor single father named Ethan Cole dropped his grocery bag and ran toward the girl without thinking of rent, without thinking of hunger, without thinking of himself. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to One Heart Stories, because stories like this remind us that humanity still exists in the smallest, bravest moments. Ethan's life had been shaped by quiet sacrifices. Since the day his wife passed away from a sudden illness, his world had shrunk to a cramped apartment, unpaid bills, and his 7-year-old son Noah, whose laughter was the only light in days that often felt endlessly heavy. Ethan worked nights cleaning offices and days fixing anything people no longer wanted to touch, his hands always rough, his back always aching. That afternoon, the sun was high and unforgiving, and he had just spent his last few dollars on bread and milk, carefully calculating how to stretch them until payday. When he saw the girl lying there, pale against the dark road, all calculations disappeared. The girl was young, no older than 12, her face smudged with dust, her breathing shallow and uneven. Blood traced a thin line near her temple, and the heat made her skin dangerously warm. The crowd murmured but kept its distance, afraid of involvement, afraid of responsibility. Ethan knelt beside her, shielding her face from the harsh sunlight with his own body, feeling a fear he hadn't felt since holding his wife's hand in a hospital room years ago. He tore off his worn jacket, pressed it gently beneath her head, and waved desperately for help, his heart pounding louder than the traffic. Minutes felt like hours as Ethan stayed there, whispering prayers he wasn't sure he believed in anymore, wiping sweat and dust from the girl's forehead, urging her fragile body to keep fighting. An ambulance finally arrived, sirens cutting through the air, and as paramedics worked quickly, Ethan stepped back, his hands shaking, his clothes stained, his chest tight with worry for a child he had never met. When they asked for his name, he gave it without pride, without expectation, then watched as the ambulance doors closed and disappeared into the bright afternoon. Life did not magically change for Ethan that day. He went home to the same cracked walls, the same empty fridge, and the same tired smile he put on for Noah. Days passed, and the memory of the girl lingered like a quiet ache. He wondered if she survived, wondered who she was, wondered if anyone stayed by her side the way he had. But survival left little room for wondering. Rent was overdue, Noah needed school supplies, and Ethan's body felt heavier with every sunrise. What Ethan did not know was that the girl's name was Lila Harrington, and her collapse had been caused by an undiagnosed heart condition worsened by dehydration and exhaustion. He did not know that her father, Victor Harrington, was one of the most powerful billionaires in the city, a man whose name opened doors and whose money bent rules. Victor had been in another country when the call came, and by the time he rushed back, fear had stripped him of his power, leaving only a trembling father sitting beside a hospital bed bathed in daylight. Doctors spoke of narrow margins and unlikely timing, explaining that if help had come even minutes later, Lila might not have survived. Security footage showed a man kneeling on the road, shielding her, refusing to leave her side until professionals arrived. Victor watched the footage over and over, his chest tightening each time, knowing that while wealth had given him everything, it had not been there in that moment when his daughter needed a stranger's courage. Weeks later, under the same bright sun, Ethan received an unexpected letter, heavy with expensive paper, addressed to him by name. He nearly threw it away, assuming it was a mistake or a bill he could not pay. Inside was an invitation to visit a private office downtown. Fear and curiosity wrestled inside him, but something told him to go. Wearing his cleanest worn shirt, Ethan entered a world of glass and light that felt unreal compared to his own. The meeting changed everything. Victor Harrington stood before him, not as a billionaire, but as a father whose voice shook with gratitude. He explained what Ethan had done, how those few selfless minutes had saved Lila's life. Ethan listened in silence, overwhelmed, ashamed of his torn shoes on polished floors. He tried to explain that he had only done what anyone should do, but Victor knew the truth. Not everyone runs toward danger. Not everyone chooses compassion when life has already taken so much from them. Help came, but not as charity. Victor arranged stable work for Ethan, training him for a facilities role that valued his skills and paid enough to breathe again. Medical support ensured Noah never went without care. A safe apartment replaced the crumbling one. Most importantly, dignity replaced desperation. Ethan returned home that day under the warm afternoon sky, holding back tears as Noah laughed at the promise of a room with a window that let sunlight pour in. Before this story ends, we have a special request for you. Please comment where you are watching from and share one small act of kindness you believe can change a life. Months later, Ethan sometimes visited the park during the day, watching Noah play beneath the open sky. He would see Lila there too, healthier, brighter, her laughter carried on the breeze. They shared smiles from a distance, no words needed, bound by a moment when humanity had spoken louder than fear. Ethan understood then that kindness does not ask for permission or reward. It simply shows up, even when pockets are empty and hearts are tired. If this story touched your heart, moved you, or reminded you of the power of compassion, please like, share, and engage with this video so more people can feel this message. Sometimes, the poorest hands carry the richest hope, and sometimes, one brave moment in broad daylight can change more lives than we ever imagine.